Hey, welcome to 9394, a music podcast with me, Travis. I am here, like I always am, to talk about albums that came out in the years 1993 and 1994. Today, I'm getting into some punk rock action, looking at the 1993 album How to Clean Everything from Propagandhi, or Propagandhi, depending on how you choose to say it. I discussed that and many other things related to the album and the band with my dear friend Derek Fern, one of my top contributors to this show. He's come back again to educate me and inform everybody about everything he knows about how to clean everything. Check out the conversation I had here with Derek, one of my very best friends.
Mark your point of failing begins where you concede. Hesitate, procrastinate, sedating, configure to impede your path. You need a good kick in the ass.
Yeah, hey guy.
I am not hearing you in my headphones, which is not.
Oh, I can hear you fine.
Yeah, I don't think it's connected right.
Well,
Now you're in my ears.
and you're a little bit louder in mine, so something happened there. Hi.
Yeah, I switched it to the headphones. We're good now.
Great. How's it going?
Good, Trav. How are you?
Good to see you, buddy. How's the basement treating you?
It's dingy and unfinished.
This is, it looks like a place where you bury bodies.
Yeah, there's probably a couple in the walls behind me, to be honest. I'm not sure. A couple of weird bulges.
Which album are we here to talk about, bud?
We're here to talk about my introduction to the band Propagandhi, or Propagandhi, How to Clean Everything from 1993.
Are you implying that there's a debate over how to pronounce the name?
I don't know if there's technically a debate, but I think us Americans always pronounce it as Propagandhi, with the emphasis on the Gandhi part. But I've heard on podcasts that the band members themselves pronounce it Propagandhi. So,
What?
yeah, I know.
Isn't it a reference to the Mahatma Gandhi?
No, I think it's a mixture of, yes, and a mixture of propaganda,
Right, yeah,
and
figured that out.
Gandhi.
Right, so Propagandhi.
Yeah, I guess they put the emphasis on the Gandhi.
Well,
Yeah.
you mean they mispronounced the A in Gandhi?
Apparently.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool. All right, I mean, it's their band. If they want to pronounce it Propagandhi, I guess I should start doing that.
No, I just can't. I've
It's
tried.
technically Fugazi. Or was it technically Fugazi instead of Fugazi? But everyone says Fugazi.
It's the Fugazi. Yeah,
It's
who
the
knows?
Fugazi. Yeah, I don't know. I'm gonna keep calling it Propagandhi.
So
I
am I.
think.
I've tried it, and then I just feel like I'm pretentious.
It's like Bon Iver. It took me a while. Eventually, I'm like, okay, I'll call him Bon Iver. I can do it.
Yeah,
But there's a long time where like Bon Iver. Like I just couldn't fucking do it.
yeah.
And I'm sure there's a huge overlap between Propagandhi fans and Bon Iver fans.
Bon Iver.
There might be.
Yeah.
There might be. How did you get into this album? This first album of theirs?
I'm gonna have to go with the Fat Records compilation, "Survival of the Fattest."
Yeah. What song was on there again? It was a great song.
Nation States, which actually is off of their second full-length album,
Yeah, it's a great song.
Less Talk, More Rock. And I did look, and on there, I think that was before it came out, and it was More Talk or More Rock, Less Talk. So maybe that's kind of
They
interesting.
changed it around.
Didn't realize that until I'm like, hey, what is that song that's on there? Yeah, I had to do the same thing to refresh my own memory. And that's what I came up with.
So you weren't listening to this when it came out in 1993?
I don't believe so. No, I think it took me a little bit to, I think we've kind of discussed this in previous podcasts. It took me a little bit to get into the punk rock realm. Probably not till like 94, 95-ish.
Yeah, our friends group kind of started leaning into this stuff more like 95, 96.
Yeah, so I had to go backwards in time for this one. And I believe it is the first one I bought. I don't think I started with the latest, greatest, which was Less Talk, More Rock. I think I went to their first album and then realized that song wasn't on here. And I'm like, well, I guess I need to buy the new album then because I love that song.
Yeah. Well, I have a weird kind of a relationship with this album that kind of keeps on happening on this show, where it's one of those albums that I've listened to a gajillion times and have been hearing since it came out, and I have these connections with, but really it's like my friend's album. It was just something that I never personally really connected to. I didn't own it, but I heard it a bunch because everybody I was friends with loved it.
Hmm.
And again, like it's not like I didn't like it. I liked it, but it's just like this never felt the need to buy it because I heard it whenever I wanted to. And then as I got older, like I don't know, it just wasn't my favorite punk album, I guess, from the era.
Hmm.
But I remember being, speaking of you in a basement right now, I remember being in the
Hmm.
basement of our friend Keith Coomer's house back in the day in like my first punk band, Coke Bones Malone. And like listening to it with him and our buddy Morgan, who was the guitarist in our band, yours and my band, Derek.
Hmm.
So I remember like those guys in particular being really into that album, those two guys, when I was in that first punk band with them, and it was like extremely influential for the two of them. So therefore it kind of like ended up having a big influence on me and the songs that we were writing and that kind of stuff, especially our buddy Morgan and his guitar licks. I think he was
Hmm.
particularly driven by what they were doing. And then of course Keith was really impressed by how fast the drummer was because he's a super
Oh
fast
my
drummer.
God. Yeah.
So, and then I remember like being in Steve Giles' basement with you and our next band, Punk Like Urson, and like listening to it down there. And basically, it's one of those albums that I listened to in basements a lot because I'd always listen to it in the punk bands I was in. And the bands we were in were always like, we spent all the time in the basement because that's where the
Yep.
drums went. So,
Yeah. So we didn't annoy the parents too much. Yeah.
yeah. So it's really fitting that you're recording from a basement with me today because like, I've been thinking about basements as I've been listening to this album the last couple of weeks because that's kind of where all my like sense memory comes from with this.
Yeah, I listened to this a lot in my red truck driving around. I remember rocking
Yeah.
this. It stayed in my, portable Discman that fed into the tape adapter of my old truck with the
Yeah.
singular 2 speakers in the dashboard. So it sounded absolutely terrible, and I probably barely heard the bass at all.
I would have heard it in that truck for sure because you drove me home many times.
Yeah. It was a staple of that time, like, I don't
it
know.
was.
It's not my favorite Propagandhi album, I have to admit, and it still isn't. But I mean, it was my introduction. It was the first album I bought by them, and it was their first album. They were just young kids. I mean, look at these goofy idiots on the back. I mean,
They were young. They were like 20.
yeah. Yeah.
They're just a few years older than us, really.
Yeah, and they're like metalheads from Canada, and I don't know. For me, like, they were my real introduction, I think, to super politically charged punk rock,
Yeah.
And they
Political
are to
music,
this day. Yeah.
For me,
Well, Rage was probably my real introduction
yeah.
to super political.
and Bad Religion, so I take back that statement. But yeah, there was definitely not a ton of bands I listened to that were political at the time. And I think that was also partly why I didn't get that into it. I wasn't really political until I was in my early 20s, and then I got very political. I mean, it's not like I was turned off by the politics of it. I just didn't always understand what was going on or if I agreed with it or not, what they were talking about and stuff. And listening to it now that I do understand everything on it, there's still some things I very much agree with and some things I vehemently disagree with on this album. But I do like that there's all these strong opinions being made here. But you mentioned that this is not your favorite Propagandhi album. Which album is your favorite Propagandhi album?
I mean, it kind of bounces around. Like, honestly, since the first of the year, probably with everything that's going on politically, I've just been super into Propagandhi and listening to, they have a Spotify list that's their complete collection. So it's everything they ever recorded that they put out. And I just have that on random. So I've actually started to fall in love with some of their later albums, but supporting cast is, I feel like when they took a turn in their songwriting for the better.
Because they kind of turned away from punk a little bit as they've gotten older. Is that correct? Like they're a little more broad in their approach to genre these days. As I understand. I haven't heard it, but I've heard people talk about it.
Yeah, I would check it out. I think that they lean a little more into their metal influences and some of their proggy kind of influences with some of their stuff.
And you get that all the way back in 93 with this album. Like on one hand, there's some very straightforward, almost blending together with similarity with some of the punk songs. And also they have other songs and other parts within songs that are playing with genre and defying the expectations of Fat Records at that time for sure.
Yeah, I don't know. They're just, honestly, they're probably top 5 bands for me, maybe even top 3 right now. I've been listening to. Yeah, they're amazing.
That's awesome.
I mean, they're really, really amazing songwriters, and they have a new bassist now than they had on this album.
They've gone through a few, right?
And they have a second guitarist.
Yeah.
A second guitarist.
So there's 5 of them in the band now. Is that what you're saying?
No, they had a second guitarist that they added later because they were just a three-piece early on
Right.
for the first two. And then I think they added a guitarist and got a new bass player for Today's Empires, Tomorrow's Ashes.
Yeah.
And he's definitely got more of like a scream,
Hmm.
the new bassist. So that kind of leans into their metal upbringings, which you get a
Which would
little
be
bit,
more
I
up
think, on
your
this
alley.
album. Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
totally. Yeah. But I mean, they have some softer stuff too that's I mean, it starts off clean and it builds, and it's like a minute and a half intro before it really kicks in. Like they're just
Hmm.
songwriting is off the charts, and this is what kicked it all off. And I can still go back to this album and listen to it, even with his phony British accent that he kind of put on there, because that
He
was
wasn't the first or only from the era to
mm,
do that. And I
no,
don't
he
think
was
he's the
not.
biggest offender either, because it's not that noticeable. I don't even really hear it so much as a fake British accent, so much as I hear it kind of as a affected punk accent. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like,
Yep.
yeah, yeah, kind of like, a little bit of affectation there. But
Yep.
going back to this album, let's dig into the main question here, the
Let's
biggest
do it.
question that I have for anybody that comes on the show. What is your favorite song on this album?
Well, let's see. Let me look to my notes because I got to be honest, I bounced around a lot. It was kind of a hard decision, much
Okay.
like I said in previous times.
It's a hard task that I put on my guests, I
It
think,
really
to
is.
pick one song from an album you love.
I think I have to go with just the opening track, Anti Manifesto.
Dance and laugh and play, like another message we convey. It seems we're only here to entertain. A rebellion catch a fit. Well, I refuse to be the soundtrack to it. We entertain, we're still knee deep in shit. Well,
Like
there's
it starts
something
off
on
with,
inside.
just the guitar and the drums, and the bass is kind of like playing the third note there. And I don't know, it just kicks off so strong. And just right out of the gates, they're like, we're a political band, and that's
Yeah.
what we're going to talk about. This is who we are. You can either hop on board or not. You can dance and sing along and maybe not get the message, but we're still going to put it out there and fight the good fight that we believe in. It's just such a kick-ass song. It's got everything. It's got the super fast punk beats. It's got the heavy palm muting stuff. It's got some bass licks, and Jord on drums is just killing it. So
Yeah.
I think I just have to go. Every time that song comes on, I get pumped. I'm like, here we go. We're in Propagandhi mode. Propagandhi, whatever. God, see, now I'm gonna
You're
do
really
it.
struggling with that, yeah. But yeah, it's a ripper of a song and a hell of a way to open the album. It gets your attention. You're right. I think it really announces, hey, here's who we are, and this is kind of like what we're about. Yeah, on one hand, like punk in a lot of ways is about drinking and partying and having fun and skateboarding and all that kind of shit.
Yeah.
And we get that, but it's not going to take a lot of work to listen to what we're saying, and we got a very deliberate message that we're trying to get out to you here.
Yeah, we want to be more than a faded sticker on a skateboard. Like, I
Right.
love that line. Like,
It's a
it's
good
so
line.
good. Yeah, this album's full of them.
Yeah, and coming out of the punk scene of that era and being one of the premier punk bands from that era too, because Fat Records and Epitaph were it, right? They were like the main.
Yeah.
There was Lookout and some other ones too, but those were like the real fucking main record labels, and they were one of the big bands on that. And everybody I knew loved Propagandhi, so they definitely were able to straddle that line between being kind of playful and being like very deliberate in their messaging. And
Yeah.
the whole album here demonstrates that well, but that song in a nutshell does it as well. Yeah. Good choice.
Yeah. Well, I just love the dang song. For me, it's like they kind of set the stage. Like I said earlier, like we know you're going to dance to this and maybe you'll get the message, maybe you won't. But I think with the next album, not to hop off this one, but just the cover on the CD was, like pro-feminist, pro-gay. And I think they knew that their message wasn't going to necessarily be gotten in the skate punk scene, even though that was kind of where they were. And with the second album, they were just like over the people getting into their music that didn't understand it, or maybe listen to some songs like, Fuck Machine and took it the wrong way, like, yeah, I'm a man, and like that is the opposite message in that song. So they
You don't
really
have to
went
listen very hard to find the message in Fuck Machine.
Well, let's be honest. To people with a mind, yes, it is. But people that are mindlessly listening to skate punk back in those days that just wanted to like party and drink and skate and fuck was probably lost on them. So I feel like that song is kind of a great interlude to their follow-up album, or at least a good intro to that.
Fuck Machine?
Well, just Anti-Manifesto, because it says you might not get the message. And then in the second album, they're like, here, if you really didn't get the message, this is what we're about. So if you don't like it, fuck off, essentially. Yeah. So that's just kind of another reason why I love that song. It kind of goes with their discography, and they've always stayed true to who they were. And that song sets it up perfectly.
That's great. I like the song for sure. It wasn't my favorite. I had to pick the same favorite that I've always had with this album. There's a clear highlight for me, which is Haile Selassie, Up Your Ass.
Oh, perfect.
I love that song.
I do as well.
Of Rastafari, but how can you justify belief in a God that's left you behind? You've simply filled the gap between the upper and lower class, and your faith merely keeps you in line,
It's, again, like playing with genre, fucking around with reggae, but having like this punk kind of feel to it and this aggressive kind of feel to it. And just taking all of religion I feel like there's probably like a 15-minute version or 20-minute version of that song out there where they get into Taoism and get into like Shinto, and because they're kind of like addressing like every fucking religion, or like some of the main ones anyways, the Abrahamic faiths.
Yeah.
What will that get you? Not a fuck of a lot. Take a look at your promised land. Your deed is that gun in your hand. Mount Zion's a minefield, the West Bank, the Gaza Strip, the West Bank, the Gaza Strip, the West Bank, the Gaza Strip.
That was the first time I ever heard, or at least in a context where I cared to investigate what it meant, it was the first time I ever heard the words Gaza Strip and the West Bank, and I didn't know what that shit meant. And I remember like looking into it because of that song and being like, oh, that's going on. I remember being like really impressed, like, oh, the punk bands can sing about some real shit. Like, I'm very familiar with Bad Religion and stuff, but there's just something a little bit different about this. And I like the way that the song is a break. It's in the perfect spot right in the middle of the album. It breaks up the whole album. It's just a chill, good song that has, again, I don't know that I agree with every single little line of the song, but overall, like, the messaging here is bold and in your face, and like, yeah, this is how we feel. Yeah.
And the Gaza Strip, the soon-to-be parking lots for American tourists and fascist cops. Yeah.
Maybe just fascists of all professions at the rate we're going.
And how, like, prophetic almost is that with like what's going on now,
But it also demonstrates just how long it's been so fucked up there for so long.
Yeah. Well, and I feel the same way. Like, that kind of really opened my eyes. I'm like, what is the Gaza Strip? Like, teenage Derek had to look it up, and pre-internet, so I might have gone over to and actually pulled out like a real book and like looked it up, and I'm like, holy shit, yeah, this is messed up when you look at the history. And you mentioned Bad Religion, and I think the defining characteristic of Propagandhi is that they really talk about very specific examples. I feel like Bad Religion sometimes is more general and broad,
that's
and this is so straightforward. I don't know if you know, I mean, they spell his name wrong. I don't really know why, but
Haile Selassie.
yeah, he was supposed to be the second coming of Christ.
Right. He was
and
the
the Rastafarian,
right,
like,
the Ethiopian
religion.
dictator, basically. Right.
Yeah, exactly.
And that was the first time I heard of him.
Right.
And so then, like, later on, I came across the name. I'm like, oh, and then so I looked a little more deeply, and I was like, oh, okay, so that's what they're talking about. And so to start things off by going after Rastafari is interesting because, again, like, they're mostly looking at the Abrahamic faiths, but I guess they're like, well, we're playing with reggae, so.
Well, and then to use like a reggae beat, yeah.
Right. Very, very tongue in cheek and middle finger up, but
yeah,
it's
totally
a good damn song.
It really is. I agree.
Yeah. Moving forward, then, I like to like sandwich the least favorite songs between like the underrated and the favorite, so we can kind of like put it in the middle of the episode because it's always kind of like, here's the part where we get down on the album a little bit. So, what's your least favorite song on this album?
Oh my gosh. There's one song, if I had to ever skip a song on this album, which is kind of how I landed on it, it's Ska Sucks.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oi! Ska sucks. Ska revival isn't cool, you stupid. Fuck. The bands are only in it for the bucks. And if you don't believe me, you're a schmuck. But the trend will die out with any luck. Yo, yo. A message to you, Rudy. A message to you, Rudy. A message to you, Rudy. Fuck you, Rudy!
Like, I get it. I like it. I kind of liked ska at the time, and
Me too.
I was listening to this, and I'm like, ska doesn't suck, dude. I kind of like ska.
It may have been a little bit what turned me off of this album back in the day, a little bit. I mean, I liked the song, but I was also like a pretty hardcore ska kid. So
yeah,
you guys.
Yeah, I was like, but I like ska, dude. Can't I like both? But I also thought that was a little prophetic too, because the bands are only in it for the bucks, and
bullshit.
I
that
think
is fucking bullshit.
Well, I agree, but I mean, if you look at the history, once they kind of the mainstream music industry moved from punk, they're like, oh, hey, what about ska and like big band and stuff? Things with horns, that's cool now, right? And they like threw that in our face like in the later 90s. So some of those bands that he was probably talking about in that third wave of ska or whatever did, find a couple of dollars later in that decade.
They get paid to eat food and get a pad. That's a problem. I got issues with this song, and not with the musicality of it. I actually really like the song.
Yeah.
But I do have a quick diatribe I want to go on too, because the lyrics are just fucking bullshit. This idea that there was no fucking ska bands between the Specials and Mighty Mighty Bosstones is absurd.
Right.
And this idea that there's been no ska bands since the Mighty Mighty Bosstones is also fucking absurd. Ska, I think, is a great example of a genre of music that can go through all these waves, right? These different waves of music of people doing it. And there are people creating ska music right now. There's still like a hardcore, devoted following of ska fans. I don't listen to it. I've moved on from ska in my life for the most part, but I still respect it, especially because it seems like since it became a thing, there's just always been this underground crew of people that like it. And was there some people that, benefited from a wave of interest in the mid 90s with ska? Like, yeah, but I sure as shit don't begrudge any alternative musician for getting some attention and getting music.
Like I just said, I mean, punk bands had their time in the sun too, like shortly after this album came out. So
this is the same year that Dookie came out. So, I mean, what's nothing against Dookie, but I mean, like, it's not like Scott, at any rate, like, I kind of get where they're coming from, because there was like this weird, well, they're on the left and they're used to eating themselves because that's what the left does. So similarly, when it comes to like musical genres, people that should have common cause like punk rockers and ska kids back in the day. Sometimes those people were like you and I, where we straddled both worlds equally and considered ourselves like equally, well, probably more punk, but still really into ska.
Mm-hmm.
I remember like wearing fucking flannel and like a Boston shirt, walking around Ann Arbor and like having like punk kids like harass me and like screaming and shouting at me as I'm walking down the street. And I'm thinking to myself, I'm in a fucking punk band. Like I'm literally in a punk band and you're screaming at me because I like ska and not punk. I'm just like, these fucking idiots. So there's my diatribe about ska sucks.
Well, and I think Michigan was kind of like a hotbed too. I don't know if it's kind of hard to say and separate myself from that, but like Suicide Machines and
Parka King,
Mustard Plug and Parka
Yeah.
Kings and like those bands that were around at the same time as all the punk bands in the area. So there was a pretty
Mhm.
big influence of ska and punk where we grew up, that we were
That's true.
exposed to it all the time. And you know, I have some friends that have started a ska band in their 40s now and live in
That's
Flint,
great.
and they're doing the same things and like
Good for
doing
them.
little tours and, you know, playing the Flint local 432 and stuff like
Oh, you're
that.
talking about Jason. Let's
No.
shout about. Oh, you're
Well,
not.
I could talk about Jason too.
I thought you were
But
talking about, well, shout out while we're talking ska, we should shout out Jason Milbauer, who plays with
yeah,
Jay Navarro and the Traders. He's a good
yeah.
dude. But who were you talking about then?
I'm talking about, I actually know him. He was a younger brother of one of my cousin's best friends in Fenton.
Oh, okay. Not
And
someone I know.
No, I mean, there was a little overlap there sometimes because we went to the same shows. They were into the same stuff that we were. They just lived 30 minutes north of us.
I remember you talking about him.
But yeah, they're the write-ups. So yeah, check them out.
Okay. All right. So I like that we're promoting ska bands as we talk ska sucks. Michigan ska bands, no less. I
Yeah.
had to pick my least favorite song on this album, and I'm not going to pick a cover. I just refuse to do that because it doesn't seem fair.
No, it doesn't.
I'm not in love with the Cheap Trick cover on this album. I will
No,
say that.
and that's why I didn't mention that because yeah, that's another one I'll skip because it's just goofy as hell. But I think that was the point, you know, like they're not taking themselves too seriously kind of thing, you know, like we're a political band, but hey, we're still kids and we can mess around too.
I know it helped get them signed to Fat Records, that it was something that stuck out to Fat Mike. So.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I'll give it some love for that, I guess. But for me, my least favorite song on this album, I had no trouble picking my least favorite song on this album once I cut out the cover. It's This Might Be Satire.
Oh, okay.
Well, I wanna chew my bubble gum with you, and I wanna walk you home from school, and I wanna carry your books to every class, and I wanna fuck you up the ass. Not, girl, you know it's true how much I love you. I wanna sing it across the land. Won't you hold my hand?
It just doesn't do it for me, dude. It's just, I mean, singing about fucking people up the ass and stuff.
Yeah,
I'm like, it's really, really juvenile. Again, they're 20, so like, it's not like I'm really holding their feet to the flames here, but to have so much substance on this album, and then you get to this song, and it just kind of like grinds to a halt almost. It's like, hey, we've got so much to say, and now it's like, we don't like it when punk bands sing about love. Okay. I don't know. It's just kind of I mean, musically, again, like it's fine. Like, it doesn't bother me, but lyrically, I'm just kind of okay. Like, this isn't the best song of the album for me.
No, I can give you that. Yeah, that one I guess I'd tend to possibly skip too, just not as much as Ska Sucks. But I don't know. I'm interested in your takeaway from that song. And yes, it is juvenile, but I almost feel like that is the point of it.
Yeah, it might be satire. I get it.
Like,
I mean, they're trying
mock
to
those macho, you know, alpha male type jockey type people that, you know, pretend they love you just because they want to get in your pants kind of thing, and that's what they're mocking in a way.
I think they're mocking like MXPX and Lookout bands and bands that had like a lot more of a romantic tinge to their pop punk stuff, which I guess that's also kind of something I don't like about that song too, and I don't necessarily like about Ska Sucks, is like, it goes back to my main point, or one of my main points here, that why are we going after our own people here? Like, gatekeeping bullshit. But again, they're 20, so I kind of get it. They may have written it when they're still a teenager for all I know. So I don't think it necessarily represents who they are as people or anything. It's not like it's that big of a deal. But part of me is just like, come on, man. Like, all right, so you don't like that kind of punk, but you still like punk. So why are you digging up? Whatever. Okay. All right.
Right. Yeah.
But that's a minor quibble and what is overall a very good, and I would say pretty underrated album, certainly by me, because like I said, I grew up listening to it, but I hadn't spent time with it in a long time. So I've enjoyed the last 2 or 3 weeks getting more time with it. It's a really good album to come home like after work, and when like that space between after work where like you can't sit down yet because you're going to stop doing stuff. So you're like, that's when you're doing the dishes and the laundry and all the shit that you need to get done. So it's like a perfect album for like how to clean everything sort of in the middle of the day. So speaking of underrated, hit me. What's your underrated track on this album?
Well, this might be a short segment for me because mine, I went with Haile Selassie, comma up your ass.
Tell me about it.
Well, the reason I struggled to really choose an underrated one, and I went with that one just because it is so different, I suppose.
Yeah.
And I thought about it from the perspective I would be in when I had this album. And, you know, I was like, come on, get back to the fast punk stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And that was probably why, for me specifically, I found it was underrated, or I personally underrated it. So that was kind of where I went with that one.
That makes sense. I mean, for me, like 93, 95, when I was getting into punk, we talked about it before, how I got into Social Distortion and Face to Face fairly early, and I got into like some ska stuff fairly early, but I was still kind of like segueing into punk being like my main genre. So maybe that's why it stuck out to me as my favorite track on the album, even back then, because it was more my speed then, even though I got more punk rock later, and it's more my speed now.
Yeah. Well, it's like you said, it breaks up the album perfectly, you know?
It really does. It's well placed.
Yeah.
So my underrated on this album, man, I almost considered like every fucking song. Like I'm like, well, maybe this song, maybe, because again, like I think I've really underrated this album. And
they didn't have an album or a song from this album on like one of the Fat Wreck comps, you know?
Right.
So,
and the songs that I would hear with my friends, a lot of the ones that would stick out to me most would be like the first song, or like the ones that were more obvious to me, like Ska Sucks or Haile Selassie. So like some of the other stuff kind of blended into me a little bit. So I'm really struggling. I really, really had a hard time picking one, but I think if I have to put my foot down and choose one, I'm going to go with Showdown, GE/P, which is, what the fuck does that stand for? But yeah.
no
Showdown.
clue. Yeah.
Spoken mind so clearly, assume fundamental rights inherent not as bonds but men. I do not require a gauge for freedoms of speech, cause I never asked to be a citizen. I never have and never will pledge allegiance. Waking up each morning with confusion in my eyes, wind is biting through to wave hello. Seeing my reflection, an exterior of lies. I hope this shaky feeling doesn't show. As if I had to tell you there was little left to say. Stood the conversation color blue. You were sitting down and you got up to walk away. I tried to stay but I was right behind you. I was right behind you. I was right behind you.
It doesn't even mention anything of what that means in the liner notes. I tried to look because I thought the same thing. I'm like, I don't know what that stands for.
Yeah, maybe just call it Showdown. Anyways, I think that opening is so cool. Like, I love the opening of it. It really gets your attention. I do think that the guy from the Weaker Thans, I guess that's what he went on to do after he was the bassist, singer, and his first 2 albums. I forget his name, Jason something. He's got kind of a Frank Oz thing going on with his voice here. Like, he's not my favorite vocalist necessarily, but I do think that him and, what's the singer's name? Chris Hanna? Is that his name?
Yeah. Yep.
I do think that they work pretty well together here, and like the outro, like I Was Right Behind You, the way they sing together, like that's some good pop punk. Like that's straight up pop punk stuff right there.
Yeah.
And they're doing it in their own way, so it's got like this edge to it. So in some ways it's like, oh wait, you could have done that. Rather than picking on pop punk and like romantic stuff, this song is enough really, because it shows like here's how you could do pop punk. And I think you do an awesome job with it. And I really fucking struggled because there's so many really good songs on this album, but I'm gonna have to go with Showdown.
Yeah, I like it. Like you mentioned, their vocal harmonies on that song is chef's kiss, man.
Yeah, like neither one of these guys is exactly like a honey butter voice, like a dulcet tones, you know, but they really make it work for the two of them together. They harmonize well. Cool song.
Yeah, well, and I don't know. Yeah, their voices are so totally different, and those tend to be probably some of my favorite vocal harmonies, like in rock music, is those two vocalists that you can see and hear the distinction between their voices, but for whatever reason, when they're together, it's just so good.
Yeah, I wonder how that works now if they play that song live ever, because, you know, they'd have to have the other dude sing for it now. I don't know. It'd be interesting to hear it today.
Well, they actually have a female backup guitarist now, so she does those live.
That'd probably be awesome if she's a good singer. That'd be great.
Yeah, she is. Yeah, she's
cool.
rad. Yeah, her name's Stu Lynn. She's from Florida, I guess, and like she travels all the way up to Winnipeg for like band practice and like go out on tour with them.
Oh wow, that's interesting.
Yeah,
Okay.
I found that interesting too.
Yeah. Well, speaking of seeing them live, I am a little embarrassed to say that I never have. I never saw them
man.
live. I bet you did though.
I've seen them 3 times, and
Okay.
they're actually coming again for Punk in the Park, Denver, this summer. And Emily, my wife, and I were really pondering going, but they're on a day where I don't know any of the opening acts really. Maybe I'm too far gone. And
If it's a fest,
you know.
and you're going to spend all that money and spend all that time, it's like you want at least 3 or 4 bands that are worth your time.
Yeah. And Pennywise is like one of the main stage acts. Descendants are playing.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I mean, Pennywise and Prop would be pretty cool on their own.
I agree.
I don't know that I would want to
I
stick
agree.
through like 10 other bands that I don't know about.
Right.
And of course, I know about the Descendants. I saw them last summer, but they're not my favorite
Oh, cool.
band, honestly.
Yeah, me neither.
I respect the fuck out of them, right? You got to respect
Oh,
them, but
absolutely.
I never listen to them.
Yeah, and they come on. I'm never changing it. You know,
Yeah,
like if
yeah,
they
I
pop
wouldn't
up on a
turn it off. that's
mixed
for sure.
playlist or something, I'm like, ooh, who's this? And I'm like, oh, yeah, of course, the Descendants. But I don't know. They never really grabbed me where I was like, ooh, I got to go out and buy an album, you know?
They were just a little before our time. They were like our older brothers or our friends' older brothers punk band. You know what I mean?
Yeah, totally.
Well, so you saw them 3 times that you did. When was the last time you saw them?
I want to say the last time was in 2018 or 2019.
Oh, so it hasn't been too long. Pre-COVID, so it feels like forever.
Yeah,
ago.
it was pre-COVID, and I remember he had like a hockey jersey on with Kaepernick name. I know you don't follow sports, but if you know who Kaepernick is,
Colin Kaepernick?
yeah, I think that's right. Yeah, he was the quarterback that kneeled during the
that's why I know.
national anthem.
It would make sense that he would be a fan of him. But Hannah would
Yeah,
be.
and I thought it was cool to see his name on the back of a hockey jersey.
Is it Kaepernick? Kaepernick? It's one of those things I've
Kaepernick.
read more than
Yeah.
I've said or heard someone say.
Yeah.
That's a problem for me because almost all of my news I get from print, and that's how I've always been. Like, I don't really watch
Oh,
news.
yeah.
So, like,
Yeah.
I'm like, Hilmar Abrego Garcia. Am I saying that right? I don't know. Sounds right.
Right. Yeah. Totally.
So, yeah, I've never seen him, but I would certainly be happy to see him. But it'd have to be like kind of like what you were saying with that thing. I wouldn't go see them just on their own. But if they were playing with bands like Pennywise and stuff like that, I wouldn't do it. But I'd also be a little shy too now because I never listened to anything after Let's Talk More Rock. I haven't heard a single album after that point. So,
Well, I have to say you're missing out. Their newest stuff is great. They have a new album coming out in May, and I am super stoked. I already put in the pre-order for it. I
cool.
can't
On
wait
vinyl?
to get it on vinyl. Yeah, with a T-shirt.
Ooh.
Yeah, so I'm going all in.
Very cool.
I don't know. You have to check out their new stuff. It's really, really good. Like the song structures are more complex. The chords that he uses, I don't know how he sings and plays. It's amazing. And, kind of similar to how they've always done it, the new bassist.
Yeah.
Like they go back and forth on writing and singing. So some songs, like the new bassist is, taking the lead and he does harmonies and backups. Chris Hanna does. But yeah, like, I don't know, man. Like he's such a shredder now. Like you listen to this album and you're like, oh wow, yeah, it's like he's got the fast palm muting and like the super fast punk stuff, but the chords he uses now, the melodies that he writes on guitar, he's probably one of my favorite guitarists, to be honest. He's just phenomenal.
I'd be lying if I said I was going to rush and check it out because if I'm real honest, like it's not like I never listen to heavy stuff like punk or screamo or anything like that, but it's all stuff that I've grown up listening to if I put it on. These days, I'm I'm a 44-year-old man about to be 45.
Right.
I'm pretty chill with my musical. There's a lot of Bruce Hornsby, a lot of Warren Zevon, a lot of stuff that I don't know that Propagandhi fans would necessarily be on top of, but that's just how I roll these days.
Well, maybe I'll send you just a track Like one of my favorite tracks off one of their newer
I will
albums.
say I have heard some of the
You
newer
can dip your
stuff.
toe
yeah,
in.
I mean, I'd be lying
Yeah.
to say I'd never heard anything because I definitely heard some before, but it was
Yeah.
like, I don't know. I heard it when I was in a period where I was like, I listen to nothing but Van Morrison now. And like, so I was like, I couldn't really get on board. But you know what? If you wanted to like make a little Spotify playlist of like your top 3 or 4 or something, I would definitely check it out if you felt like going through that trouble.
I will do that.
I'd appreciate
I'll
it.
share my love.
Maybe spread my horizons a little bit. Spread it on.
Yeah.
All right. Anything else you want to say about Propagandhi or how to clean everything?
No, I think I pretty much said it all. I mean, honestly, they're just one of my favorite bands. I've been listening to them a ton lately, so it was kind of an obvious choice when I knew that I could get back on. I'm like, well, I've been listening to it a ton anyway, so let's talk prop.
I'm so glad you chose it because, again, it's not like an album that I deeply love, but at the same time, I do feel like there was like this, like it was a seed, you know, in my life, in the punk rock part of my life, and like our friends group part of my life. It was just one of these things that just, it's a root. It's just there. It's always been there. And if I'm going to make a podcast where I talk about albums from 1993 and 1994, like, God damn it, I really like to get the Guided by Voices. But at least I'm getting to talk about like Propagandhi and like some other kind of, not obscure stuff, but stuff that's not exactly like, you know, Smashing Pumpkins, stuff that's a little more buried, but had a tremendous impact on me, even though it's not my favorite album or anything, and has had an even bigger impact on my friends group in terms of our worldviews and playing styles and music that we make and have made together and stuff. So I have a lot of appreciation for them, even if they haven't always been the band I listen to the most. Like, you gotta fucking respect these godfathers of the genre.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, and I just respect the hell out of them for always being true to who they are and what they believe in, and not force feeding you, but also giving you some information on something maybe you've never heard of, or an issue that's ongoing somewhere in some place of the world that you've never heard of or had no idea was happening.
And not holding back.
And they do it to this day. No, not at all. They hold no punches.
They're gonna stick that fucking flag up your fucking ass.
I carried their anthem, convinced it was mine. Rhymeless unreason, conjecture kept me in line. Then I stood back and wondered, what the fuck had they done to me? Made accomplice to all that I promised I would never fucking be. Never be.
Like, wait a minute, Dad. Like, that's like, I'm like, okay, we're mad at Dad now. We're mad at America.
Yeah.
Where does your anti-authority stuff really come from here? I think voting's a good idea for the record, but all right.
Yeah, I kind of question that too.
That moment in the song is like, it's the crescendo of the whole album in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
You know, it's,
Yeah, right in your face. Yep.
all right, so, you know, I typically end these shows with doing some form of trivia or something along those lines. I've got a trivia game for you. And what I've been doing lately in particular is sometimes it happens where there's a trivia game baked into the album, as there is with this one, as there was with the last episode I did on Soul Coughing. This album has a song on it called Head, Chest, or Foot. So you are going to tell me, I'm going to give you a name. You tell me if this person is famous because of their head, their chest, or their foot, or at least which part are they most known for. Bonus points if you can tell me why they're famous for their head, chest, or foot.
Ooh, bonus points.
You ready?
That might save me. Oh, God. All right, let's see how I do.
All right. E.O. Wilson.
E.O. Wilson.
Correct.
Head, chest, or foot? I'll go with foot.
That is incorrect. E.O. Wilson was a biologist, an entomologist, a sociobiologist, lived into his mid-90s, wrote many books on the subject, and is widely considered one of the evolutionary theory heroes.
Ah, so something intellectual. That's why I didn't get it, because I have no head.
All right. Diego Maradona.
Also never heard of him. So let's go with foot.
That is correct. Why?
Soccer player.
Correct. He's one of the
Yay! what a good guess.
One of the most famous soccer players of all time, but he's from Argentina, so you and I had never heard of him. But I guess he's
Well,
a football.
soccer's not really my favorite sport, so yeah, he's a footballer.
Yeah, but good job. You got it. And you got the bonus point.
Woo!
All right.
Ding, ding, ding.
Jason Hansen.
Jason Hansen.
Jason Hansen.
Man, you were throwing me some curveballs. I was hoping for like Dolly Parton or something, you know?
I had her name on the list, but I erased it because I felt embarrassed.
That is classic. All right. I'm gonna go with let's say chest because that's not been guessed yet.
I'm afraid incorrect. Foot. He was a kicker for the Lions.
Shit.
Yep.
You'd think I'd know that as a Lions fan, but wow, I am embarrassing myself.
Well, a lot of these.
Mike Gove would be very disappointed in me.
I'm giving you a pretty hard one, to be honest with you, because I wouldn't get a lot of these either. It's like more like you got a 33% guessing shot.
All right. Okay.
David Bennett Sr.
David Bennett Sr. Head?
Chest. He was the first person to have a pig heart successfully transplanted into him. He died 2 months later.
That's a good one.
But he did kick around for a couple months with a pig heart. So that was
it worked for a little bit. All right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got it.
Ivan Turgenev.
Ooh, that one I'll go with head.
You are correct. Why? There's two answers. I'll take either one.
Physicist?
Good guess. He was a Russian writer, poet, playwright
Okay.
who had a head circumference that was 230 cubic centimeters. The average head cubic circumference is 1,400 cubic centimeters. So
Wow.
he has one of the biggest heads on record of all time. So he's famous for his
What
art.
a thing to be known for.
And had a huge head. I saw a picture and he looked like me. So, because my head is enormous.
Oh God.
Ronnie Coleman.
Oh my gosh. That name is very familiar.
He's pretty famous.
Chest?
Yes, good. Why?
Gunshot?
No, his nickname is Ronnie the King Coleman. He's widely considered, apparently, to be like the most famous and successful bodybuilder of all time.
There it is.
I mean, obviously,
Okay.
Schwarzenegger would be more famous, but I guess within that
Yeah.
that thing.
Yep.
Christy Brown.
Well, haven't gone with foot in a while. Let's go with foot.
You are correct, sir. What is the reason why?
No idea.
Are you familiar with the Daniel Day-Lewis movie called My Left Foot?
I have not watched that.
He won an
No.
Academy Award for it. He played Christy Brown, who was an Irish painter who had cerebral palsy and could only move his left foot. So he wrote and painted and communicated everything with like the toes of his left foot. And his biography was called My Left Foot.
My left foot.
Yeah.
Okay. Good. All right.
Daniel.
I guess I'm good. I guess.
Yeah, that's the point. Daniel Hale Williams.
Ooh. I'm gonna guess head.
I'm afraid not. He was the first doctor, an African-American doctor, no less. I think that's important because he was the first doctor to successfully perform open heart surgery back in 1893. Cracked a dude's chest open and fixed one of his valves or one of his arteries or something.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
It is pretty awesome. All right. Last but not least, Enrico Fermi.
Ooh. Chest.
He was a physicist. So his head, he was one of the guys behind the Manhattan Project and created the world's first nuclear reactor. And you may have heard of the Fermi paradox, the idea that
gosh, yes. How did I miss that?
You know it? You know what I'm talking about? Okay.
Yes, I do.
Okay. So
but you can go into it.
The idea that
I know you have an explanation for the layperson.
For the Fermi paradox. I think I am a layperson, but as I understand it, it's saying that the reason the aliens haven't existed is because anytime species become so advanced that they could succeed in space travel, they instead destroy themselves.
Yeah.
Which
so bleak.
Makes sense.
Yes, it does.
All right, so you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 points out of really 9. So I'd say you passed. You did it.
with at least one bonus point.
That's kind of my bonus point. But still, names that I would have gotten on here, I would have gotten Enrico Fermi, I would have gotten E.O. Wilson, I maybe would have gotten Christy Brown, and that's it. The rest I didn't know either. So it was really like a throw shit at the wall and see what sticks kind of category I gave you here. But you did a good job on head, chest, or foot.
Woo! Passing grade, I'll take it.
Awesome. Well, as always, I strongly appreciate you coming on and recording with me. This is what, your fifth visit? Sixth? Like, you're
I think it's my fifth, yeah.
One of my top contributors. Do you already know what you're going to do next time? Or not sure yet?
I don't.
Worked out.
It was a little bit of a toss-up the last time until I just realized I was listening to a lot of Propagandhi, so it was an obvious choice at that point. Yeah. So, yeah, I'll have to go through your what remains list.
There's plenty.
Because I know you got a few probably in the pipeline that haven't been posted yet that you're still working on them. So.
But we are 2 years into this thing, and there's still many, many albums to go, especially since we also look at like 92 and 95 a little bit and that kind of stuff. So I'm sure you'll find something, and we'll have you on then, bud.
Well, I appreciate it as always having me on. You know me. I've always loved talking music and can talk music all day long. So
great, buddy.
I appreciate the opportunity to talk about this album.
You too, man. Love you.
Love you too, man. Take care.
You boycott your brain. You answer with fists. My questions still persist. You can rearrange my face, but you can't rearrange my mind. You can beat the shell about me, but you can't touch what's inside. What's inside?
I am, of course, grateful to my buddy Derek for coming back on the show and supporting me and supporting the show and keeping things going here. I'm very grateful to you, listener, or listeners, plural. And of course, I'm grateful to Propagandhi for their music. I'm always looking for new guests on the show. One of the fun parts of doing the show is sometimes meeting new people through it. If you want to be on the show, or maybe you know someone who you think would be a good fit for the show, email me. You can find me at 9394podcast@gmail.com. You could do any album you want from 1993 to 1994 that I haven't already done. I always usually make some suggestions at this point of the podcast. How about the debut album from Unwritten Law, Blue Room? CPK, the first song from that album. Unwritten Law went on to have a pretty big career afterwards, but it all started right here in 1993. It'd be cool to have a fan on to talk that album with me, or again, any other album from the era. I'm not that picky. If you're a regular listener, you know there's pretty much really only one album that I'm not going to do. And I think this is where I will leave you. Thank you as always for listening. Should you feel so inclined, a rating, a preferably good rating on Spotify or Apple Podcasts would be helpful. If you're watching/listening to this on YouTube, give me a follow or subscribe to me, I guess. Give a thumbs up, all that kind of stuff. Helps with engagement. It's appreciated. And yeah. Okay. Thanks. Bye. 9394, a music podcast with Travis Roy, is a labor of love. It is not and never will be monetized. Please don't sue.
Fuck.